Welcome to another episode of Thinking Out Loud. I'm Joel.
I am Brad. Good day.
We are continuing this week with our 2017 trends. We got into it a little bit last week where we were chatting about what we're seeing in the marketplace. And so we've got some fascinating things happening right now. One of the biggest question marks for me this year, one of them, is you have platforms. We call it the rise of the platforms that are really starting to get their legs under them. To name a couple, Revfluence, FameBit, Grapevine is another, where they're attempted to be marketplaces that are going to connect a brand directly to a host, a show, without going through an agency, without going through an MCM, et cetera. So this is obviously clearly a trend, and some pretty smart people over at Google think it's a trend because they bought FameBit for an undisclosed sum. So the question becomes, what is this going to do to the marketplace?
Right.
How is it going to affect agencies? And is that a successful avenue for brands to go through?
Well, it's definitely a fascinating time to be part of influencer marketing. So when we're out working with Snapchatters, we're working with YouTubers, working with people on Instagram, what we're seeing is there's a lot of brands that want to be associated with these hosts, right? Or with these YouTubers, influencers, creators. There's a lot of terms. They all mean the same thing. And so the question is, what's the best way to connect these brands with these hosts? Because it's not easy, right? I mean, these are essentially their own small media agencies now who are putting out content. They're doing everything from production to storyline to distribution, and they're very good at it. And they have a very strong take on what's the right way to approach it. So it's not always easy for brands to be able to connect with them. And so currently, the way it's done without any technology is either a brand's got to reach out to influencers, which is hard to be able to get in touch with influencers, and there's a question of credibility and fit and time for influencers to comb through all of that. Or they've got to go through an agency of some sort, right? Whether it's the creator's talent agent, or whether it's an agency, an influencer agency, or even the brand's agency of record. Somehow, some way, they've got to get connected. And so we live in a world where now we want to try to streamline everything to the extent possible. We want to try to cut out the middleman. So it makes sense to the extent possible that we would do that. And like Joel said, there's a lot of tools that are now trying to exist to be able to better connect brands with influencers. The problem with these tools is that they're very imperfect. There's a lot of information that is going to impact the success of a campaign, but cannot be found inside of a tool. But what we know is that large organizations like Google through YouTube are fighting and scrambling to figure out ways to keep content producers happy and allow them to make money on their platform. So a big thing is Google's acquisition of FameBit. So FameBit on average deals with YouTube hosts that have about 40,000 followers, 40,000 views per show. And what Google's trying to do here, in my opinion, is they're trying to keep those YouTubers happy. And so they know, hey, if we can get some integration work, if we can run some influencer campaigns and do it in an automated, seamless way, they're going to be able to get more revenue than just AdSense, and they're going to stay on our platform as opposed to going to another platform. So I don't see this in any way, shape, or form as trying to get people away from doing influencer marketing through agencies. I think there's a way to try to keep influencers happy and allow them to monetize the great things that they're producing.
Does it threaten the MCN system?
You know, I think the MCN system is a challenged system when we're dealing with a lot of creators on an ongoing basis. I mean, you know as well as I do, we deal with creators a lot who are frustrated with MCNs and come to us or come to other people in this world. I think MCNs are going to be challenged more by this system, but I also think it opens up a lot of doors for MCNs to be able to get connected with influencers or creators who are outside of their network.
Their network.
What's your view on this? I know you've worked with a lot of MCNs over time.
Well, I'm the MC. I think MCNs are going to do what they do. They're going to continue to sign the huge talent. They're going to be able to continue to present. MCNs work beautifully for the right kind of client. So if I'm a massive Fortune 500 company that's wanting to do a branding campaign,
right.
I'm going to go to a big MCN because they can offer me 10,000 shows at scale for like a one-time big push. Where MCNs don't do a great job, in my opinion, is finding consistent advertising for that one show that wants consistent revenue and consistent advertising. So they're great at bringing a hodgepodge of different deals where they could use some work. And if I were a host, I would not sign with an MCN, or if I did, I would have the ability to go outside and have other representation as well.
Sure.
Simply because what I know from that MCN, they are not going to give me consistent month in, month out advertising like a talent management company is more likely to do, or some agency. More important than that, in terms of threatening the MCN system, for me, it is a massive question as to whether this is going to work at all. Now, I know FameBut's had some good success. I know Revlance has had some good success. It's not that companies don't do well using them. I think what they're going to find, whether it's through a technology platform or anything else, the platform has made one thing easier, which is show discovery.
Sure.
Because it's easy. It's simply I can put some terms in. I can make some restrictions around what I want to see, and it's made show discovery a little bit easier. What it's not going to do is make the process of working with an influencer smoother and easier. Because at the end of the day, you've got a company over here that wants their message. They want it delivered authentically, yes, but still needs to be on brand. And they have requirements. And then over here, you've got a YouTube host that is, for a million different motivations, has created a YouTube channel. Some of them want to do it as a business. Some of it, they just love the topic. Some of it is a hobby, and they find it interesting to do. And to be able to work with them in a way that is anything other than high touch and high relationship, in my opinion, does not work. Everybody that we work with, there's just an enormous amount of interaction that goes to it. So it doesn't matter that there's a technology platform in between it. At the end of the day, I still am going to have 15 to 30 touches with an influencer to be able to get a campaign off the ground, because there are all sorts of nuances to every single campaign. So a technology platform doesn't solve this. Quick piece of data, or a fun fact. I was good friends with a guy who used to be at Google, who was initially tasked with setting up a podcast buying marketplace. And
how'd that work out?
Google moved on. Because I think at the end of the day, this is a process that technology is only going to take you so far, because at the end of the day, you've got people. It doesn't lend itself to automation. We're not putting a widget on somebody's website that I can go in through a portal and buy. So I'm skeptical about how much this is going to matter. It's going to make discovery easier. I just don't think it's going to make the process all that much easier. So with that said, that's the rise of the platforms. It is going to continue to be a trend. We'll see how it shakes out and whether it actually works.
Well, hang on one second before we go on. So if we're saying it's the rise of the platform, but yet we're saying that it also doesn't add any value past discovery. So what's the takeaway here for
I'm not saying that it doesn't add any value. I'm saying that it adds minimal value. And what it's not going to do, let me. If there is the hope that by going through a platform, it's going to be like buying display or AdWords search terms, if there is at all that expectation, then it's not going to work. If a company goes in with appropriate expectations, say, hey, it's a way to simply find shows, but all of the high touch is still going to have to be there. You're still working with a person, and you have to recognize that there's going to be a lot of interaction to be able to get this to work and get it to go off. As long as they're going in with the right expectations, then it's fine.
Agreed.
And I have no.
And that person has their own systems and protocols, and they're not going to want to be constrained by what the platform is telling them to do.
Sure.
So some YouTubers can be a little bit precious. Most are really great to work with, but they're not going to want to be constrained by any process. So that can be something that's really difficult. So I think that's to me the takeaway if you're a brand manager, if you're looking to work more with influencers, these tools can add some value. They can help you somewhat in discovery, but at the same time, they can also detract from the experience for the influencer. And like Joel said, they have a lot of motivations, not just making money.
Right.
And if something feels constraining or it makes them feel like they're having to do something for the sake of process, they're going to throw their hands up in the air and say, forget about it. I got better stuff to do.
We've seen a lot of. So that's one of the trends that we're seeing for 2017. It is the rise of the platform. We'll check back in with this in 6 months and see what's happening, and we'll see how this is going. Thanks for watching this most recent installment of Thinking Out Loud. We appreciate your time. Again, hit any comments down below if there's things that you think we ought to be talking about. If you disagree with anything that gets said, we would love to join in the conversation with you. Signing off from Detroit, I'm Joel.
I'm Brad.
We're Thinking Out Loud. Thanks for sticking around.